So in this video, we're going to explore logging in Python, and Python does come with a bunch of built-in logging capability. We've actually extended that using a little class here that we store in the log helper file called logger, and I'll put in the description below where you can get this class, and basically you need to just drop this class into your code and you can start using it, and I'll show you some of the capabilities that it has. So I have a simple script here. It has a function in it called do work, and in the main we're just going to call that do work. I'm in Visual Studio Code, and I can go ahead and run that. And we do work step 1, work step 2, work step 3. Okay, so logging in scripts like this is always a good idea. It's really helpful to see what's going on, when things happen, how long they take to run, and see the overall status of the script. The log files are great files to archive with your projects so that when you come back to these projects after some time, you have an audit trail of what happened, where things were written, etc. And you can really get some granularity in the process that was run without you having to write a lot of text or metadata with your run. The other thing is that if something goes wrong with your script, you should be able to come to the log file and within a matter of seconds be able to see whereabouts in your script something went wrong. So from our log helper, we're going to import the logger class, and we're going to instantiate a variable of that type. And I'm going to just say this is the function that I'm in is do work here. This is just a string. I'll explain this in a second here, but that doesn't have to equal the function that you're working on. And then the first thing you need to do is set up your log file with the place that you want the log file to be written. Now I'm just going to put this out in the folder where I'm running the scripts. Now typically you wouldn't do this. You would put this next to your data files, typically next to the output of the script that you're running. Just to keep things simple here, I'll keep everything close by. And now we're ready to log. So the way you log, there's 3 different methods. We'll start off with the simple one here, just log.info. So we'll put some before and after statements in there, and we'll put a always helpful to have a log info at the end of your script in case your script bails partway through. If that doesn't get written to your log, you know something went wrong and you didn't quite get to the end. So let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and see what we get there. So now on the console, we get some log statements coming out here. And these are the same statements that are going to get written to the log file. Okay, so here's the log file. It's got created next to our work. So let's go and have a look at that. And what we've got here is an ISO standard date format string saying when the operation took place. We've got whether it's an error message, a warning, or an info, and I'll get into that in a second here. We've got that string that we put in telling us what step of the process we're in, and we've got some information, the log message that we put in here. So these timestamps are really useful, especially if you're going to do benchmarking. If you've got a really long process and you want to kind of decipher where in your script it's taken the most amount of time, you can use these timestamps. There are benchmarking tools in various Python IDEs where you write your code, but this is just a really crude way of seeing that, and you can see the overall process. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to take this setup of the log. I'm going to put this down here in the main. Now, I can just run this again. Oh, I can run it again, but I do need to I need this line in both places because I was accessing the variable. Let's just run that. Okay, so I ran as before. Now, what's a little odd here is you might think, oh, I'm creating a variable here called log, and I'm creating here a variable called log. Well, this class is set up as what's called a singleton. And it means basically anytime you instantiate a variable of this class, it will be the same variable. So inside the setting up of this logger, here it sets it up. And then here, when you create another instance of that variable, it will basically say, hey, you already have a logger that's working. Go ahead and use that again. So you only ever get one logger in your entire process. And that's really useful because you can now, typically your code will have lots of different functions in many different files. And all you need to do is in each one, just put this line to set up a logger, and it will be the same logger in every process. So you only get one log file in every single process. So this is great. What we're going to do here now, though, is we're going to put our work in a try-catch exception. And what we want to do here is log an error. And we're basically going to, if we get any errors in our script, we're going to put things here. Now, the third type of message that we can get in our script, and I'm just going to demonstrate this, is a warning. So let's say we expect the result of a function to be a certain number and it's not that number. We can log a warning. Now what we could also raise here and put an error, log an error here as well. You can log errors any way you want. And now you'll see that the warning actually gets printed out here as an unexpected result. So let's go look at our log here. So you'll see the warning quite clearly coming through there. So this is a really good way. Your log file might be thousands of lines long by the end. And you can just use the search capability in your text editor to just look for the word warning or look for the word error. And that's really helpful. The last thing I'll just explain here is, so I've got this do work here. What I might just do is step 1. Then I'm going to change the basically the namespace of that logger. It's not really a namespace, but put about to do step 2 in here. And now in my log, you can start to use these names as divisions. So what we'll typically do here is put the words in here about the process. So we might put a name in here, say setup, and then further down the script we might do finalization or writing outputs, etc. And I would strongly recommend that you try to put as much useful content in these log messages as possible. So I've just put dummy little text here, but put information in these that will be useful to you when you come back to the log file. For example, if you're working on a GIS layer or a database, put the number of records being processed in here, or the number of records that were operated on, or put the file paths in here so that you can go and visually see. So if something goes wrong in your model, you can just cut and paste the file paths out of this log, and it can be really useful to very quickly then go cut and paste those into your Windows Explorer and jump to that location to see if it really exists, or add it to GIS, etc. So don't be fooled by the simplicity of the messages I've put here, that you should add as much complexity as you want to in those messages, and I actually encourage you to do so.